let's not waste any time this week. Let's go straight in with a battle between Generation 3 Pokegods. This is Rayquaza on the Spirit Board. Rayquaza is the third of the weather-inducing legendaries from Generation 3, along with my Groudon and Kyogre. And Rayquaza is a Dragon and Flying type, absolutely monstrous. And whereas Kyogre and Groudon have a primal form that, gives them more powerful abilities over the sun and rain, Rayquaza has a Mega form that it can access without use of a Mega Stone, making it, and I do mean this literally, the most powerful Pokemon in the game. And when I say that, I mean, it is actually banned from competitive matches, even against other legendary Pokemon. It is straight up broken. So yeah. Rayquaza also appeared in Super Smash Bros. As a boss fight, and appears in this level in the background, flitting back and forth. So yeah, that could have gone anywhere. Alright, so, that one battle alone gave me just enough to finally upgrade my Groudon and turn him into his primal form. In my headcanon, he leveled up, and then I got the red orb, and now I have that perfect Mon. And there he is. My primal Groudon, who resists fire and explosions. Anyway, next up, moving on from Pokemon, we have Madame Couture from The Legend of Zelda Triforce Heroes. In that game, she would basically sell you outfits in exchange for different materials, and there were a myriad of different outfits you could wear in that game. Obviously, you had your colour-coded links, but you could completely customise their clothing. My favourite is the fact that there are so many dresses. You can make Link dress up in so many dresses. Please let more video game characters wear dresses. There we go. So, next up, we have the Plasma Wisp from Kirby Superstar. Pretty standard enemy that appears in that game. Gives Kirby the Plasma ability when inhaled. Now, the Plasma ability itself is rather interesting. To a new player, it seems kind of garbage. You shoot out these little piddly projectiles that don't do much damage. But what you do is if you hold the B button and then get Kirby to start running around erratically, it then charges up to allow Kirby to do the most powerful projectile attack in the game. It is the best way to get through the end game, honestly. Especially the arena battles. Anyway, there goes my little plasma friend with this very plasma heavy battle. And now we have Omega from Sonic Heroes, or, well, the Sonic the Hedgehog series in general, as Heroes was simply his debut. Omega is one of Eggman's E-series robots, his more powerful, more intelligent robots, which, in Omega's case, turned out to be a big mistake on Eggman's part, because after abandoning Omega, Omega basically vowed revenge against Eggman, becoming one of the ally characters in that series. Most importantly, he's a close friend of both Shadow the Hedgehog and Rouge, two characters who are otherwise very aloof and not particularly friendly. What can I say? He's a lovable robot. Anyway, next up we have the Elite Beat Agents. I actually did refer to these guys before when bringing up the Wendan cheerleaders. The Elite Beat Agents are the spiritual successors. They are a bunch of male cheerleaders. They love doing cool poses. They love hyping people up. They're basically hype men. I just realised that now. They are hype men. And between the inspirational tunes of Crush 40 and this city environment, it really does get across that these guys swoop in to situations and make them better with their positivity. I need to probably play the Osu or Wendan games because even though I may be an arrhythmic fool, I think I love their aesthetic. I think they just look really cool to me. Anyway, there's Yoshi's very, very cheap move that I'm now going to start spamming. His egg move. Don't really know what it's called. I think it's just called Egg Lay. yeah, if you spam that on edges half the time, AI don't really know how to scramble out of it, and will just be left to their deaths. Okay, well, I really like dogs. That is the Toy Poodle from Nintendogs, a dog racing simulator for the Nintendo 3DS, and later the 3DS, now including cats. Toy Poodles themselves are the cutest and fluffiest little things. Very, very similar to my dog, a Bichon Frise. Toy Poodles are hypoallergenic with their very, very, very fluffy coats. And oh my gosh, it's pouring on the screen, that's so cute. Oh god, I need to focus. Yeah, on top of that, they're actually really intelligent and they're very easy to train. So they're used quite often for dog shows. They are pedigree dogs, so... yeah, they're quite pricey. If you wanted to go get one yourself, they cost about £1,000, and they're very, very needy. They get very, very anxious when away from people. They're very, very dependent dogs, so if you want to be there to love and hug your dog forever, then I would advise getting, if not a Toy Poodle, then a Bichon or something of that ilk. As far as this battle goes, we are currently battling with a Duck Hunt duo who is playing the Toy Poodle, and I think this might be the first Spirit Battle we've seen that has a partner in it, so that's really interesting. And the fact that we're fighting a bunch of wolves is arguably a way of representing Nintendogs dog shows, where you and your puppy, or puppies, would team up to try and outdo a bunch of other doggos at the dog shows. And nothing outdoes them better than launching them into space with your dinosaur tail. Anyway, next up we have the Cheap Charger from Mario Kart. This is just one of the standard karts from that series. So yeah, it is also a light vehicle, as you can probably tell, what with Toad riding it. Toad being a very light character. To represent this kart, we have a fairly fast-moving Peach who really likes grabbing and throwing. I'm not quite sure how that represents a Mario Kart. I think it might just be because when you ride one, you know, throw items in order to give yourself an advantage while you race. So, yeah. Anyway, quick easy win. Very nice. Next up is Chikorita, introduced in Generation 2 of Pokemon. Chikorita is the Grass-type starter of that generation, later evolving into both Bayleaf and Meganium. It is a pure Grass-type Pokemon, so not at all poisonous like Bulbasaur and its ilk, even though it is being played by an Ivysaur. And to represent that it is more grassy than poisonous, and does in fact learn the move Sleep Powder, we have a stage that has a risk of putting you to sleep. Thankfully, my Groudon has had a coffee. Okay, so this is an interesting one. This is Hakun from Sute Hakun, a Super Famicom Satellaview game released exclusively in Japan. When I first saw this character, I thought it was a snowman, but it is actually a clear kiwi bird, and in its own action platformer puzzler game, what it would do is it would use its beak to absorb colours and platforms and pop them down elsewhere. Very interesting. Anyway, quick battle there, so now it's time for Staryu. Staryu is a water-type Pokemon introduced in Generation 1. It is a starfish, hence why it's being played by Rosalina and her Luma friend there. More the Luma than the Rosalina. And, yeah, Staryu itself does appear in Smash as a summonable Pokemon, but more prominently in the actual Pokemon games, it evolves into Stormyy, who is super fucking overpowered. Stormyy is one of the most potent Generation 1 Pokemon, and I think even to this day, it's still pretty threatening. Particularly when Misty uses it. Her Stormyy is absolutely monstrous. Anyway, next up we have the arm and leg lift. So, this exercise is quite simple. All you do for this one is, from a crawling position, raise your left arm and right leg, and hold them for 5 seconds. Once you've done that, you then go back to neutral and do the same with the opposite arm and leg. This will help to build both your balance and your core strength. Man, I'm getting better at this whole Wii Fit training thing. So yeah, in Smash Brothers, this also serves as Wii Trainer's down smash, which attacks in both directions and can be irritating. Here is Tempo. Tempo is the protagonist of the game Harmo Knight for the 3DS. This was a rhythm platformer created by Game Freak, of all companies, so there are some Pokemon-related songs in that game for you to run and platform to. In said game, you play as Tempo, a little kid with a magical staff, which here is being represented by the home run bat. And you take down Nozoids, or Noizoids. Weird aliens. Anyway, next up we have the Chibi-Tot from Chibi-Robo. Or to be more specific, Chibi-Robo Photo Finder and Chibi-Robo Ziplash, both of which appear on the 3DS. They are a bunch of mischievous little robots, developed by the same company that created Chibi-Robo itself. And they love to run and move really quickly and play hide and seek. So to represent that, we have a battle where the little... oh shit. Where the little tots are going to be dashing around all over the place. And to play into the hide and seek element, we also have the... we have the mother from Gamer in the background there, 5 volts, being all terrifying. So yeah. That said, of all these spirits I could have chosen, I think Yarn Yoshi was a really good choice for this one, because, you know, you can quite literally get a small toy of Yarn Yoshi, and it is adorable. Arguably the best amiibo. And that's not even counting the ones you can just buy, you know, in general. There's a lot of good Yoshi merch out there. Next up is DeMille from Tomato Adventure, a Game Boy Advance RPG released by Alpha Dream, which actually served as a precursor to the Mario and Luigi series. In it, you would save your girlfriend, Patharan, as well as the Ketchup Kingdom, from the evil King Abira. I miss Alpha Dream. Anyway, next up is Luxley. Luxley is the mascot of a DSiWare game, Tales in a Box, Hidden Shapes of Perspective. I got that so horribly wrong. This was a hidden object game that utilised the DSi's camera in order to give a 3D effect, and looking at it, it looks really, really dope, and you can definitely tell that this was the inspiration, or at least a prototype idea, that led to the creation of the Nintendo 3DS. I mean, yeah, this is a straight up optical illusion, and I love it. And next we have Flashman from Mega Man. Flashman appears in Mega Man 2, and his gimmick is freezing time. So to represent that, we have a battle against a Mega Man who... you know what? I don't even need to hide the gimmick. A bunch of watches are going to spawn, which will allow either Flashman here or myself to slow down time. So yeah, best thing to do in this fight is just batter him enough to stop him from getting any items. I remember in particular that Flashman's level was arguably the easiest in Mega Man 2, and is the one that most players would go through first, although the actual boss fight itself, what with his time stopping, proved to be pretty goddamn difficult. Anyway, time slow. There we are. All I need to do is land Yoshi's foot attack now. Or just a bunch of aerial attacks, either way. And, that should be fucking enough of Flashman. There we go. Oh, speaking of E-Series robots, here is Gamma from Sonic Adventure, one of the playable characters in that game. The first playable robots in any of the mainstream Sonic games, before any Sonic R fans try to catch me there. So, yeah, Gamma was basically one of Eggman's robots who, unlike Omega, actually starts off his campaign quite loyal to Eggman. But after seeing how horribly that his brothers, the other E-Series robots, are being treated, and realizing that he is in fact a slave to Eggman, he stages a revolution. It is soul-crushing. Anyway, here's Hongo. Hongo appears in Yoshi Topsy-Turvy, or as it's called over here, and in Japan, Yoshi's Universal Gravitation, a game in which you have to basically rotate your Game Boy Advance, because there's a tilt sensor inside of the cartridge, in order to control the world itself. Now, even though that game did make it over here, I know that a similar game, WarioWare Twisted, was actually never released in Europe because it banned laws about the amount of mercury that could be contained within a product, so yeah. So this game might kill you. Who knows? Unless the tilt sense of universal gravitation was, you know, to code. Anyway, moving on from that weird tangent, here is MC Ballyhoo and Big Top, the hosts of Mario Party 8. And there's not much more to say than that. Kind of like Party Phil, they are just hosts. They host your party game. But to represent, you know, our little blue friend and his blue hat friend, we have a bunch of blue Mario characters. All of whom would most likely be partaking in Mario Party games themselves. So, let's give them the thwomps, let's give them the big whacks. Let's do a hecking hit on all of them. Very nice. And, yeah, I also noticed that we're playing on, oh, wow, shit. I was going to say we're playing on Mario Kart, which itself is quite a chaotic level to represent the chaos of Mario Party, but no, that would be done with the goddamn stars that all just spawned in. I mean, Mario Party games are all about collecting stars, so yeah. Anyway, here is the Poltergust, the 5000 model in particular. As a whole, the Poltergusts are a bunch of ghost-hunting hoovers, or vacuum cleaners, wielded by Luigi in those games in order to bust ghosts. Basically, proton pack hoovers. So yeah. The 5000 model in particular, which is what he uses in Luigi's Mansion 2, and also in this game, in Smash, basically has a plunger feature, which allows Luigi to plunge his enemies, and in this game, grab them. On top of that, Luigi's actual final smash in this game, because in earlier Smash games he had a really weird final smash where he summoned a orb of darkness. Yeah, in this game he just uses his Poltergust to slurp up his enemies and launch them out with incredible speeds. Pretty much an insta-kill if your opponents are at high enough damage, or if there are no walls to bounce off of. Nowhere to tech, so to speak. So yeah. Anyway, we're going to take all these Ouijis down in their own mansion, showing him who's boss, and racking up a ridiculous amount of damage for one of these fights. Because, yeah, on the subject of teching, it's really easy to just get bounced off the walls in this level. That's one of the downsides of Luigi's Mansion as a stage. Get the fuck out, Luigi's. You two are going down. And next is Glass Joe from the Punch-Out series. Glass Joe is a garbage boxer. He is terrible. He is your first opponent in almost every Punch-Out game. He has a record of 99 losses to 1 win, and that 1 win was a freak accident against a surprisingly good boxer who was simply having a bad day. And, yeah, he's also the representative for France, so, sorry, France. That wasn't on me, I swear. That was Nintendo doing that one. Anyway, let's kick this fool in the face, because apparently he likes to just taunt around and isn't actually taking the fight seriously. I'll drag him out of the ring and beat him up if I have to. Here is the Sick Beats Doctor. He is a doctor from the Rhythm Heaven games who takes down viruses using forks. Strange premise, but there you go. He's being played by Dr. Mario, who quite literally does the same thing. He fights off viruses. Not with forks, but with pills. Far more conventional. Anyway, we have the ghosts here, who are representing those horrible viruses, and a poisonous miasma to represent disease. And, here's Metapods. So Metapod is a bug-type Pokemon introduced in Generation 1, the evolved form of Caterpie, and after just 3 levels, it will hatch into a Butterfree. During that period, Metapods are kind of ineffective. They have very, very little attacking stats, if any attacks at all. Tackle is the only move that they can use, and that is only if you've raised it from a Caterpie. So Metapods are infamous for just spamming the move Harden, which raises your defense and does nothing else. They were basically designed in early game Pokemon to help you learn about the power point mechanic, the fact that you can only attack so many times before you have to go to a Pokemon Center to heal yourself. So, if you were traveling through Viridian Forest and running into a bunch of Metapods and you insisted on beating them all to death, despite them constantly raising defenses, then you'd most likely run out of PP and get stuck inside the forest. So, it was actually kind of double-barreled. It taught you about that mechanic, and about the virtues of running away from battle sometimes. That said, a lot of die-hard Pokemon players would just, you know, brute force them. And speaking of Pokemon, here is Piplup. This is one of the starters from Generation 4, the Water-type starter, in case you couldn't tell. It is a cute little penguin, and yeah, it's being played by Squirtle, another Water-type starter. Piplup had quite a big role in the Pokemon anime, being used by Dawn, and was arguably the best part of that whole season of Pokemon, because it was just a cute little thing, but was also really, really prideful and kind of had a bit of a stick up its arse, so yeah. Anyway, Piplup's not too hard to beat, and in the actual Pokemon games, when you evolve it, it becomes Primplup, and then Empoleon, who is an absolute beast. Wow, more Pokemon, holy shit. Here's Cubone, the pre-evolved form of Marowak. Cubone is a ground-type Pokemon, it wields a bone, and it is also the orphan Pokemon. Within the game's lore, its mother was killed, and it wears the skull of its dead mother. Super goddamn morbid, hence why we're battling in Luigi's Mansion, which is something of a stand-in for Lavender Town here, where Cubone's lore and Cubone's, habitat can be found. And yeah, he's being played by Wolf to represent that he is, by definition, a lone wolf of a Pokemon. Anyway, here is Bisque from the Splatoon series. Bisque is a spider crab, and Bisque runs a shoe store named Sheller Fresh. That is the best name of anything ever. So, yeah, in that game you would go to Sheller Fresh in order to buy shoes, which would upgrade you and buff you in multiple different ways. So to represent that, we have Bisque slowly getting faster as the fight goes on. Shame he died so quickly. Here is Sagi from Baten Kaitos. More specifically, he is the protagonist of the sequel game, or the prequel game, Baten Kaitos Origins. So Baten Kaitos was a monolith action RPG. Both of them were released for the Nintendo GameCube. And yeah, they were pretty solid games, all things considered. I had a little bit of a play of them, and couldn't quite wrap my head around the battle system, honestly, but I can appreciate it for what it is. And yeah, the Corrin here, who we're also battling, is representative of the character Millie, who serves as one of Sagi's main allies in that game. I have to say, I do think it's cool how many monolith RPGs are being represented in Smash, what with the inclusion of the Xenoblade characters. Anyway, This is Clefairy! We are overloading with Pokemon today, just so many of them. Clefairy is, well, was originally a normal type Pokemon, introduced in Generation 1, and was actually supposed to be the series mascot. It was actually supposed to fulfill the role that Pikachu now serves. That said, more recently, Clefairy's had a little bit of a resurgence, what with the introduction of the fairy typing, which turned its evolved form, Clefable, into something of a beast. And this is Cody. Little bit of a misnomer at the top of the screen saying that he's from the Street Fighter series. Maybe this particular instance of Cody is. But Cody as a character originally came from the Final Fight series. In that series, he was one of the main playable characters. And after taking down so many gang members, he is actually falsely arrested under trumped up charges. Later on, he made a comeback in Street Fighter Alpha 3, in which he appears as a shackled prisoner. It all has a happy ending though. He eventually becomes the mayor. So, that is all of the spirit battles for this episode. So let's do ourselves one more quick summon to wrap it all up. By combining the shop assistant with Madame Couture, we get Flo from the Splatoon series, a sea slug who runs a shop called Headspace, very similar to Bisque, but instead of shoes, it is hats and cool shades, all of which give you buffs. So there we go. See y'all soon.